Kvaratskhelia steadying himself! A star in the making. And there's the only goal! Sabini with it! After 11 years, once again, Milan are the champions of Italy.
Ciao ragazzi, and welcome to another edition of Serie A Sitdown, World Football Index's podcast for your Calcio to go. I'm Frank Crivello. He's Richard Carmen. Ciao, Richard.
Ciao, Frank. How are we doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. You know, we're Serie A fans. We're sitting with three teams in the Champions League, taking advantages to the second leg. We're not Premier League fanboys, sitting without a win. Thank
you for Thierry Henry for bringing that fact out.
Yeah,
I love that guy.
Absolutely. Yeah, Thierry Henry. I'll tell you this, and I think you hit it on Twitter. So that studio team for football, it's the best we have. I think I'm with you. You know,
they talk too much Premier League, yes, but they're fantastic. Sure. The chemistry is unbelievable.
Sure, and it was also, I would say after that, I think I kind of like the NBC crew for Premier League. I like the Robbies and Rebecca Lowe. I think they're fine. But yeah, I mean, the Champions League studio team's as good as it gets right now. It's top notch and lapping the field in terms of analysis, in terms of how they talk. Yeah, a little bit of a Premier League lean because that's where they all came from. Yeah. But yeah, you're absolutely right. But yeah, it's what a couple of weeks here in Champions League for Serie A. Which is how we will kick things off. We'll talk about that. We'll get in depth about sizing up these three teams and their chances to qualify for the last eight, because it's not a done deal for all three to get through, even though they do carry advantages to the return leg. We'll talk about the Thursday Europa and Conference League fixtures. We'll talk about Juve traveling to Nantes. We'll talk about Roma now getting Salzburg at home. Lazio now making the trip to Cluj. And then finally, Fiorentina with just a formality against Braga. And we had no idea that we were going to be saying that at this time last week, but here we are. We will also do a quick rundown of match week 23 in Serie A. And then top it off with the world's most popular hashtag game, Who Won Calcio Twitter. Richard, let's just rewind to Tuesday. Is that coming from you?
Yes. Oh, you want me to do the Tuesday matchup?
I had no idea that you were going to do music here.
Oh, you're fine. You're good. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I guess I don't know how loud I should talk here, but here we go. Napoli made the trip to Frankfurt, won 2-0. Very convincing in doing so. It was a missed penalty by Kvaratskhelia in the 36th minute, but have no fear, about 4 minutes later. Victor Osimhen scoring, played in by Herving Lozano in the 40th minute. That duo hooked up again for another goal just before halftime, but was ruled offside by a foot, literally. And then in the second half, Randal Kolo Muani, violent conduct there in the 58th minute, and sent off immediately. And that made the game pretty much a formality, but Napoli would add a second goal. Giovanni Di Lorenzo, after a nice little backheel from Kvaratskhelia to seal the deal for Napoli, win the game by 2-0. Richard, let's start with the beginning of the game, because I think that, some of the things we talked about as it pertained to Frankfurt, in sizing this up, turned up early in the game. I think they threw some pretty good punches. Kolo Muani put one wide. I think that Götze was getting dangerous. Lindstrom was getting dangerous, and the warning signs were there. So just that first 20 minutes or so where Frankfurt looked like they were getting after it and trying to get a foothold on the game early.
Yeah, and it's fully expected. I think, at least I did. We kind of gave the warning shots last week, right? That we said Frankfurt are good. They're the reigning Europa League champions. They're very good at home. The home crowd turns out, and the team plays well in front of their crowd. And we saw that. And Frankfurt came out to an early start, and it's what was expected. Napoli would have to weather the storm, which they did. But yeah, the warning shots were there, and it's Frankfurt is not a team to be taken lightly by any stretch. Even at this, as where we stand now, you still have to take them seriously. They won the Europa League, obviously. They have to be taken serious. But I think the way they started the game, it showed that they were intending on getting a result at home.
Yep. Some chances there. Kamada in the 5th minute, Kolomwani in the 5th minute, Götze in the 10th minute, having some, nothing that got on target, nothing that threatened merit. In fact, Eintracht Frankfurt with just one shot on target the whole game. It was from Kamada in the 82nd minute. And that is really all that gave Napoli any trouble in this game. And I think that immense credit. And Kyle, you're beating me to it. Kyle, I'm the host. Let me bring up these takes. Kyle's stealing my shit.
He knows the shit too.
Yeah, he does. He's a knowledgeable guy. But yeah, I'm just going to read exactly what he's saying. Lobotka was sensational.
Yep.
Once Napoli got comfortable with the game, any time Eintracht Frankfurt had to try to generate something, they were stopped. It was Lobotka. Okay, he was Tommy Smith said something about Didier Deschamps with the 90s Juventus teams, that the position that he plays, the roles that he plays, is that, okay, he's the bouncer. He's checking your ID to see if he's going to let you in or not. And more often than not, he's not going to let you in. Lobotka was the bouncer in this game. No one was getting into the club on Eintracht Frankfurt, so to speak, yesterday. Let's talk about Lobotka, because you could make a very strong argument that he might have been man of the match.
Yeah, I mean, Lobotka is so underrated, even amongst Serie A fans. What he's been doing for Napoli is what he showed against Frankfurt. He cleans up, messes when things get leaked through Napoli somehow, because it will happen occasionally. He's there to clean it up. He's done it all season long. He's just in the right place at the right time. He has offensive upside, but his main thing is to shut down the midfield. And you got a hammer in there like Anguissa, who can do defensive work and offensive work. But Lobotka's main focus is to stop the leaks from happening, and then get the ball from the midfield to the other midfielders in the attack. And he just reads the game so well. He's diminutive, sure, but that doesn't mean anything. He's strong for his stature, and he just reads the game so well. He's got the vision, even defensively, where he can see the runs coming from the sides. He's just such an intelligent player, and between him and Anguissa, they're a force in that midfield for anybody in the world, let alone for Serie A. And so Frankfurt got firsthand witness of what this almighty Lobotka.
Absolutely. Anthony brings up a point about the link-up play between Osimhen and Hirving Lozano. And I'm going to talk about Lozano in detail here, because we've talked about this a lot with Napoli. If there is one flaw to their team, it's that right-hand side. But if they can get consistent performances like this from Lozano, there's a whole new level of dangerous now to this Napoli team that was already dangerous.
Yeah, 100%. And shout out to Anthony there for the comment there. I agree 100% with that. But yeah, the right side has always been the weakness for at least the attack, I should say, for the Napoli. And the link-up play between Osimhen and Lozano. Lozano was crucial in this game for creating some activity there. We knew Cavara's going to have his field day, right? But Lozano, for Napoli to be super, super successful in the league or in the Champions League, you need play from left and right, because eventually the bigger teams will snuff out your strengths, and you have to be a well-rounded team. And what we saw from Lozano is, hey, I can play too. Don't forget about me. I can do my job too. And him and Di Lorenzo linking up with Osimhen, I think, was fantastic. Obviously, Anguissa and Lobotka involved in that as well. But shout out for the right winger to stepping up his game.
Yep, absolutely. So, and both goals coming from the right-hand side too, which was critical. And that that meant Lozano, LK LDL 707 well. Kvara and Osimhen kept most of the defense on them. Kvara was guarded by 3 most of the time. Opened up spaces for Lozano, and he did great. Yes, absolutely. I would also mention, even though there wasn't an insane amount of productivity from him in this game, when you look at it on the whole, we thought that the way Eintracht Frankfurt plays and the way they sets up really well for Piotr Zielinski to do some damage. And I thought that he had some influence on this game as well.
Yeah, and we talked about that in the last game, that he really would have to be the playmaker of the team. And yeah, while the stats didn't really show that what he did, he's certainly an impact in the game. And Kvara did his job of bulking up, blocking most of the bodies and the eyes on him, but Zelensky, the little things by him, it frees up the rest of his team. It's very underrated, his game. When there's times where he takes over games, and there's times where he's very subtle, and those subtle things are such a big impact on the team as a whole. And that's kind of what we saw against Frankfurt.
Yep. What? So the second leg, the way I see this, when we turn this around, I think we see a Napoli that puts this away early in the match, gets a quick one, gets another quick one, 2-0 in about the first 20 to 25 minutes, and then can cruise. I think that Frankfurt will take their shots. It's going to be far more difficult without Colomwani now, who will be suspended. He's been their goal scorer. They're going to have to create some other sources. I don't think Borre scares you as much as Colomwani does. I think that Colomwani has a physicality and a dynamism that, if played in properly, and if they were able to play him in, which they couldn't because of the vodka, I think he's a bigger challenge to someone like Min Jae Kim and Amir Rahmani than Santos Borre is, who appears to be the striker that will take the reins in the second leg. And I think that a lot of Frankfurt attacks will get diffused if they rely on that striker position to carry some of the load and carry some of the chances. I see them throwing a couple of punches, but ultimately I see Napoli getting a couple quick goals in about the first 20 to 25 minutes of this game in the second leg, and then I just see them cruising, and seeing it out and winning 4-0 on aggregate, maybe 5-1 on aggregate too. They get a late goal. Frankfurt gets a late goal, just kind of out of casualness, but that's just initial thought here, just a couple weeks away from the second leg. That's what I see, and Napoli go through comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kevin Trapp really kept this game from being an emphatic shut the door for Frankfurt this one, because it could have been a 4 or 5-0 game. He made some big saves in this, and had they had a bigger lead, they could have been rotating heavily in the second leg and worry about Serie A. But now they kind of still got to focus in a little bit, right? Courtois even said in his game against Liverpool, is like, we still got to take them seriously. They're here for a reason. He was talking about obviously Liverpool. I'm talking about Frankfurt, and Frankfurt, they have to be, you have to pay attention. They're Europa League winners. Again, I'm going to keep saying that. But for all intents and purposes, in my opinion, we talked about this last week. It was like, if Napoli walk out with a win, we know they're going to do their thing in Napoli. They are. It's their DNA, right? And if Frankfurt has any chance in this, they have to win at home, and they did not. And as soon as Colomwani went out with a red, I said this leg is, the 2 legs are over. No, that's just me talking. It's not, in theory. They're very much in it. They get a goal early, and it's bedlam, for Napoli. And I still think they'll win. I agree with your comment that an early goal or 2 early goals, and it's effectively over for Frankfurt. They're just gonna maybe try to get a consolation goal here, but that's it. I see Napoli winning comfortably this one. I think what we saw from Napoli in the first leg is that they were dominating against a very good team at home, and they were dominant. And now they're going to go home where they're even more dominant. This is, Frankfurt, what they're going to hope for, I think, and I no disrespect to them, because I know I have a lot of friends who support them. Their goal should be to keep it close.
Yeah.
That's it.
Let's talk about Luciano Spalletti here, and we'll get on with the Inter Porto game from today. I think we've dogged him a lot, and at least I have, even before I jumped on and did this started doing this podcast. As he gets his teams to play very attractive football. He gets his strikers to score a lot of goals as a result, because everything look at who he's turned into Capocannonieri through the years. I mean, Mauro Icardi, Aiden Dzeko. There's got to be guys before that from his first stint at Roma. I think the name escapes me. But and maybe the chat will help out with this. I know
Vucinic was Vucinic up there one year?
Vucinic?
Yeah, Vucinic. Anyway,
he was up there, but I don't know if he ever got it.
All right.
And if Totti was a Capocannonieri under him or not. But that would be interesting to look up.
Yeah.
But if they hadn't, they were at least contending. So, but you always had the failure to get it over the line. I remember the first stint at Roma, 2007, going out to Man United, 7-1 to Old Trafford. Just heavy defeats. And it took one to Barcelona. I can't remember if that was his second stint or when that was. Where it just collapses. Do you think that, let's ask a serious question about Luciano Spalletti, okay? Do you think he's demonstrated his ability to overcome it? Have you seen enough sample this year that you think, okay, that kind of catastrophe is not going to happen this year at least? Or are you still skeptical that, Napoli go and draw a Man City, or they draw, Man City's got to win first, or they draw Real Madrid in the next round. And they get pantsed at the Bernabeu, for example. Do you still see that as a possibility in terms of the range of outcomes for Napoli here in the Champions League, just because it's Luciano Spalletti, or are you saying, hey, maybe he's got this figured out?
I mean, you and I are both realists. We even with Pioli last year and managers before, when they go on these runs that are very unlike them, meaning they're out of their element in the sense that they're overachieving more than than they normally do. And even then, we're like, look, I'm taking this. I like what I'm seeing. It looks very improved, but there's still that little what if. Let's see what happens. And we have to do that with Spalletti. I think what we've seen so far, is that he's overcome this. He's figured it out. It helps having superstars like Osimhen and Cavada on the team, but I think this is the best. I don't remember who said it. Maybe about Nima on the Italian Football Show, is that this is the most complete team he's had around him from front to back, and that goes a long way to, this is how I want to play. And he has guys who are so intelligent all over the pitch that understand that and can dictate that onto the pitch and into the play. And so this is the best. I don't think they're going to collapse. I think when they face adversity, and they face some adversity here and there, mostly in the league, but they had to go play at Anfield, in Champions League and some other games. They went to Frankfurt, obviously, and they did well. What we've seen is that in the past, though he plays beautifully, especially in the league, when it's crunch time against these bigger games, his tactics change. He goes very more conservative, and we haven't seen that yet. He's been very aggressive from the beginning in the group stages at Frankfurt. He's not changing, and that's what you have to do. These managers drive me crazy in every sport, where you play a certain way and it works for you, and then when the big game comes, I love Bob Stoops, and he always changes for the big game, plays all of a sudden a different way, and you overthink it, and you screw yourself and your team. He hasn't done that yet, and I'm going to ride it right now, but always in the back of my head, and I know the same thing with you, is that let's wait for other shoe to fall, but I hope it doesn't. I'd love to see, Napoli raise the title in maybe both leagues, right? But so far, I think he is going to be a new Spalletti, as we're seeing a new Pioli from last year.
Yeah. I need to see one more team of pedigree in Europe for them.
Hopefully,
to play
it's not Real
against.
Madrid last year, next week, right? Next leg.
Yeah, whether it's even if it is a Real Madrid or a Bayern or somebody like that convinces me that he has changed. And I say this because I'm not so certain that you can point at Liverpool and say, yeah, well, he has changed. Look at him, because you're wondering suddenly, after what Real Madrid did at Anfield yesterday, how great were those are those wins? How great is winning that group? I mean, by Napoli's standards and where they come from in the European landscape, it's damn impressive. But when you're talking about Real Madrid was just able to come in and put 5 past them at Anfield, and you're just, now you're kind of looking at side by side comparisons here, and doing that sort of thing. So I'll say this: if I'm a Napoli supporter and that draw comes out in the last 8, and you get Real Madrid or you get Bayern Munich, I wouldn't be scared at all.
And they shouldn't. They shouldn't.
I wouldn't be scared of them at all. I think you don't have to beat. All you have to do, and somebody said this a long time ago, you don't have to beat the badge on the shirt. You don't have to beat the mystique of the club. Yeah. You have to beat the 11 men that are in that shirt. That's what you have to do. So
I think what LDL is saying, I'm glad he brought it up because I was going to bring it up later, but this is true. Spalletti talked about the lack of experience in his young players, and to an extent, the naivety works for them. Yeah. But when you do play those teams with the crest, the badge, the one with the aura, that maybe will affect the youngsters, and it's up to Spalletti to keep their heads in the game when they're in situations that they haven't faced. And same thing will happen at the end of the season when they get closer to that Scudetto. Pioli had to face this last year, and then Conte the year before that, and every manager has when they're going for the first in a long time or first ever. You have to keep them grounded, and that's going to be the hard job for the manager because, if you have a team full of guys who've been there before and done it and played all these big teams, it's not going to be so bad. But when you got all these guys who've really not done it before, I can't think of any guy on this team on the starting, at least in the starting 11, the regulars that have been there and done that before. None of them. I mean, Irving Lozano maybe something with their national team, but that's about it in terms of club teams. They haven't, especially not in Champions League, and so that's going to be the interesting part. How if Spalletti can conquer that, then we know he's really come full circle.
Sure, absolutely. Oh, moving on. I guess Inter played too. We should talk about them, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. We got some Inter DC in the chat, right? Why not? I mean, no, for real though. We talked about how this game was going to be the real chess match of the two that played this week, and it sure was, right? Inter are a team with talent, obviously, and now they have a quality goalkeeper, right? I think had Handanovic been in this game, different scoreline, different result. Onana.
He doesn't have the reflexes of Onana. No. On that double save, Porto score on the rebound. No doubt about it.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is always gonna be a chess match. This is two managers who stack up, head to head. Conceição is probably a little bit better, I would argue. Porto is a very good team, and we talked about how the little things matter, and Inter had to win this game at home to have any chance of getting out of this group. And what we saw in this game was that it was a feisty encounter. Both teams had their opportunities. Inter looked dangerous at times, as did Porto. In particular, in the counter, what kind of worried me about Inter is that they were susceptible to good attacks. But the game goes back and forth, and finally, Big Rom comes in late in the game, 86th minute, gets the game winner. We did see a red in this game, but 1-0. They got the goal they needed. I thought they were going to piss this match away because Inter, for me, were the better team in this game. They deserved the win, but they couldn't get that goal, right? They couldn't get the goal. They had all these opportunities, but finally Lukaku did break the duck, and they win the game 1-0. I mean, where do you want to start with this game? Because this is a chess match.
So Porto sets up with Grujic and Uribe, which the purpose of that is deny any kind of supply into the forwards from the midfield, and then spring the break. When I saw how Porto came out, I came into this game wondering who's going to have the ball more, because both of these teams like to counter.
Yeah.
And then I saw how Inter set up, and I saw how Porto set up, and right away I said, okay, Inter's going to have more possession. Because I think that Porto are definitely going to want to sit. They're going to want to hit on the break, and go from there. And they were dangerous. Inter relied on the long diagonal ball, switching the point of attack, whether it was coming from the right-hand side and finding DiMarco on the left, or it was the left-hand side and finding Darmian on the right. And then from there, it's just getting pumped into the box. I think Inter looked for those opportunities to be direct. Yeah. The problem here with how Porto set up against them is that the final ball, just about every time from Inter, was shit. I mean, there was only one connection in the first half. DeMarco played across. He was about 35 yards away from goal on the left-hand side, and it was too. Lautaro got there, but he did one of those little duck headers, that you usually see a 12-year-old do. So he doesn't time it. It's poor altogether, and so on. I think that Inzaghi made very smart substitutions. Okay, now you got Dzeko, who at this stage of his career is a stiff, and if you're playing two defensive midfielders that are blocking passing lanes and Dzeko is just flat out not going to see the ball. Doesn't and didn't, unless it was getting crossed to him, which even then he didn't. Even then he struggled. So you bring Lukaku on, who's going to try to move a little bit more, who's going to try to unbalance things a little bit more. Show for the ball, do a lot of different things, and kind of certainly be much more dynamic than Dzeko was. So you start with there. Gosens coming on for Federico Di Marco. I hated it for my DraftKings lineups because I had Di Marco in every lineup, but the first few minutes you saw Gosens and you understood why. Gosens attacked the end line with and without the ball. Di Marco settled for early crosses that were predictable, that Pepe and that Marcano were ready for. So that created a little bit of unbalance. And now Gosens didn't connect on anything. He didn't create a chance on anything, but it was just an extra thing that Porto had to be ready for. So you started to see that slowly, but Porto was still effective on the counter. Onana makes this big double save. Inzaghi goes to Brozovic. Get there and sit there in front of protect the back three, help break this up. Brought Mkhitaryan out, and then got Çalhanoğlu in a little bit more of an advanced position. So I thought that every time Inzaghi made a move, it was to counter what he was seeing on the pitch, and he got the immediate changes that he was looking for. And then Lukaku gets the finish. As always, too many opportunities, and that's how you play against Inter. Give us the ball, and we are screwed. We already score like 1 in 10. All they need is one counter, and we are done. Thankfully, Onana. Okay, well, you got the one, and you're 1-0 up.
Yep.
Going to Porto. So I thought that Inzaghi. So in a way, you can probably sum this up by saying Inzaghi ended up outmanaging Conceição in this game. He made his moves made sense. It changed the way Inter played, and it made them more difficult for Porto to defend.
Yeah, no, I agree about that. And I think what we saw in this game, both teams had quality opportunities, right? Çalhanoğlu in the first half. I mean, Diogo Costa had 2 or 3 big saves in this game at least. Onana, same thing. Both goalkeepers, performed. They performed for this big encounter. I agree. I think Simone Inzaghi. I don't know think about Simeone. He certainly, was the better of the two managers in this one. He got everything right. It seemed like, and even at times, when it started getting a little feisty there, where referees started throwing yellow cards, we weren't sure what was going to happen here. He kept the plan and stayed steady with it. And I think the brilliance of all this, right? When we look at the lineup starting to this game, I probably would look at a guy maybe like a Barella, maybe a Lautaro, to be the really focal points of this team and really be the ones that have to play super well for this team to succeed. What we saw, I think, was, and this is at least my opinion, Onana argue for man of the match, but I think Çalhanoğlu deserves man of the match because, one, set pieces. He had the best scoring chance for Inter in the first half. He really was fantastic on the back end where he would help out the defense, clean up some balls like an Regista should. And then he would help on the offensive side, switching plays with the ball, when it wasn't Darmian or Di Marco. He was certainly instrumental on all sides of the pitch, in my opinion. I thought Çalhanoğlu was fantastic, and the big reason why the chances were limited for Porto. Not that Porto didn't have the chances, they did. But I think Çalhanoğlu is a big reason why a lot of that was mitigated because fantastic performance, especially the defensive work he did.
Yeah, I think it's underrated, the tackling he did. I mean, you could talk about the playmaking and the chance creating that he did in this game, but I thought, he did an excellent job, doing some of the extra stuff because he had to sit in the Brozovic role when Inter were without the ball, which, it's really hard to duplicate what Brozovic does in that system. I I thought Bastoni was lively, especially in the second half. I thought he was really good.
Yes.
I think that's another guy that you can give a shout to. And then obviously Lukaku coming in and scoring the goal. And you basically changing how the two strikers functioned against Porto's defense, I think was something that you definitely you have to appreciate and respect.
Let me ask you this. Which surprised you more? The fact that Dzeko wasn't as instrumental as maybe we thought or I thought, or the fact that Rom was so instrumental the couple minutes that he was on. I thought he was better than Dzeko for the few minutes that he was there.
I'm going to go with Dzeko because every time I see Inter in an environment like this, we've said this multiple times, Dzeko's the guy you probably see getting the goals. And I don't know if there's an injury to. I mean, just finding room in the box. And Porto was ready for what he was going to do without the ball. He was tracked really well between Pepe and Marcano, and he's typically a target for Di Marco's crosses, and then Barella and Darmian's crosses on the right. Because let's face it, those two guys will switch off attacking that right-hand corner when it's Darmian on the right. When it's Dumfries on the right, Barella pinches in and stays more central and just attacks the box because Dumfries wants to attack the end line all day long. So I'd say it was probably, I think Dzeko's performance was more disappointing than Lukaku's performance was impressive. Because I think that I think that with Lukaku, you're seeing a player who's starting to work his way back into some reasonable form.
Yeah.
We're talking about a damn near world-class striker at one point in his career.
Yeah. It was only 2 years ago.
Yeah. So injuries have slowed him down. Slowly trying to regain it. Will he ever get back to his tip top? Probably not. But can he contribute like he did in this match where he's asked to give them 32 minutes? Yes, absolutely. It's a great role for him here. So.
I think that's why I'm gonna vote Lukaku in this question, because this game was gonna be a chess match, and I knew that, and I thought I expected Dzeko to do more, and he did not. And it was canceled out by Pepe and Marcano, and I understand that. And I figured when Lukaku came in, he's not at his best as he was a couple years ago. He wouldn't have the impact. However, when he did come in, and I said maybe he'll get like a header or have that link up play with Lautaro. What we saw was that he was instrumental from the top. I mean, he would hold up play really well. He'd get good passing. Would go over to the side, kind of like we saw Benzema in the Liverpool Real Madrid matchup. Moving around, very mobile, and then getting in the box and getting his chances. And I mean, that goal was great. He got a fantastic shot off the post, composed himself, got the rebound, and put it away. Fantastic by him. So yeah, I was surprised, but I personally was surprised with Lukaku that he was going to have that kind of impact in the game that was going to be so tight. But maybe that's what they needed, and he has the experience in these kind of games to know where to sit himself. Doesn't matter the pace; it matters about your instincts and the intelligence at that point. And he obviously has experience, and he's done it. He's played big matches for a long time, so he knows how to do these things. And so yeah, that was surprising to me, and I guess I shouldn't have been.
Yep. See a couple of comments in the chat about Otavio. What I would say here is, with him not playing in the second leg, I'll get your question here in a second here, Eduardo. I want to talk about Otavio real quick. Okay, so the second leg, he's out because of the red card. I think that Porto will miss the combativeness that Otavio plays with. The creativity can be made up by... They've got a couple players they can turn to in that vein. One being Andre Franco, 24-year-old Portuguese midfielder who shoulders some of the playmaking load when he's asked to play in the midfield there at Porto. So I don't think that they're going to miss there. He's probably not as combative as Otavio is, but some of the combativeness might be made up by Eustáquio coming on the Canadian international. So there's options there. Are they going to completely replace Otavio here in the second leg? No, but I think that there's a mix here that I wouldn't look at. Colomboani's a much bigger miss for Eintracht Frankfurt going to Napoli for the second leg than Porto missing Otavio for the second leg against Inter, in my opinion.
I do agree that. So I saw some of the comments said that Otavio is going to be a big piece missing, and yeah, I do agree about that. But I agree with you more that Colomboani is a bigger piece missing for Eintracht, because not only is he a striker and fantastic, he is their assist man. He's one of the top. I think he's the top assist man in the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
He is just an all-around player that majority of the offense and attack comes through him. Otavio can be replaced. They're not going to be at the same level, obviously. Not going to have the same feistiness as he does, but it's going to be a piece that's missing, a regular starter that certainly is going to hurt Porto, and makes the second leg even more enticing and more close, because just because Inter have the lead doesn't mean it's going to be a shoo-in for them. They're going on the road to a difficult place.
Would you have played Brozo from the start? If I play Brozo from the start, it's going to be to take Mkhitaryan out and put Calhanoglu to the left of that three-man midfield. I'm not taking Barella out. I think that Barella's presence is why Darmian ended up playing so well. And some of the crosses and some of the things that he did going forward, because Zaidu Sanusi played narrower. Because what do they do with Darmian? Darmian doesn't really like to attack the end lines, but he does work his way forward where that back four starts to cheat out and they try to deal with him. And then there's those pockets for Barella where he can be dangerous and then he can play make. And then sometimes Barella's getting in front of Darmian, and it's a question for that left back, in terms of what is he supposed to do. I think Barella's poor performance, in your opinion, Eduardo, I think that's probably more of a credit to Sanusi's performance for Porto than it is an indictment on Barella. I think Barella does the same things that he normally does over the course of 90 minutes. I just think that he was limited because of how the defensive setup turned out for Porto.
I was gonna say, if I started Brozovic, I would have wanted him to start because what he brings in these big games. I probably would have sat Calhanoglu just because he's been playing more the Regista lately, and you still want an attacking guy, and I think Mkhitaryan brings more of that than does Calhanoglu. But I like your point though, what you said about how maybe drop Mkhitaryan because maybe he'll be his impact sub, and Calhanoglu can certainly be pushed up. What you don't want to have is if Brozovic started, you have both he and Calhanoglu sitting back, because you don't want that. You're inviting. Maybe they do want that, right? Because they play counterattacks. So maybe they do want that. But Barella, I think, has to stay. He did have a bad game, some bad mistakes, but I still think he was involved a lot. He just was off, right? The final product was just off. He nearly scored a goal in this game a couple of times. He was almost there, and I think, he's the type of player you need to have. He's an agitator that you want on your team. And can Brozovic do that? Sure, but it's not really his game unless it's Milan or Juventus. Calhanoglu, that's not his game either. There's Mkhitaryan. Mkhitaryan is a free-flowing kind of guy, free spirit, right? So you need to have Barella on the pitch no matter what, unless he's injured or overplayed like we saw last year. So, yeah, no, it's a tough call. I think Inzaghi ultimately made the right call, and it showed also in the derby where you bring on Brozovic and it's close the door, right? And we didn't see too many opportunities for Porto. They got less opportunities after that. Obviously, the red card for Otavio kind of hurt them, and they kind of stopped attacking after that point. But yeah, it's a tough, good problem to have if you're Inzaghi, I think, because Brozovic is just coming off injury. He's had a history recently of coming back too fast, re-injuring himself, and going back out. And so if you can ease him in, if you can get through Porto, you have him fresher for the later rounds and later in Serie A for your charge for Napoli at the end of the season. So Inzaghi did this great. I think it was a great call ultimately, and he proved us all wrong because probably all wanted to have Brozovic start.
Oh, sure, for sure. Let's ask a deeper question. I think we can easily answer here because we're going to talk about sizing up all three of these teams' prospects for the last 8. And I think the easy question to answer is that Napoli clearly has the best chance to go through. They have a 2-0 lead. They're coming home. Frankfurt's best attacking player, arguably, out for that second leg. So everything is working in Napoli's favor to progress. You would take that complete catastrophe that we talked about earlier for them to go out. And I don't think it happens against Eintracht Frankfurt. Like I said, I think that Napoli blitz it early and then they just see it through, and then just coast the rest of the way. So that's the way I see that going down. So now it comes down to Milan and Inter, who are taking 1-0 leads to away legs. Milan traveling to Tottenham and then Inter traveling to Porto. Size them up. Who do you give a better chance to qualify? If one has to go out, who is it? And then what do you realistically think is going to happen?
So it's funny. I'm going to kind of go off a tangent and work my way back. We saw 3 Serie A teams win their games, right? And they won it in 3 different ways.
Yeah.
Napoli did it in a dominant way. They were just dominant against a good team at their home.
Yep.
Milan used defense to win their game. They struggled on the offensive side, but defensively they were stout. Inter, I think, were pretty complete. They had their moments of weaknesses, but they were bailed out by great goalkeeping. And they have plenty in offense and defense and attack. A good mixture of everything. Wasn't a dominant force, but they were smart in the way they won their game. Now, I agree with you. Everyone, I think, agrees that Napoli should easily be the one that's going to be the most likely to progress.
Yeah.
It's interesting here because, Tottenham, playing at Tottenham and playing at Porto are difficult places. I give the advantage to Porto for the home dominance, the presence, the awe that you feel when you're there versus Tottenham. And Otavio, had he been there, I would have said that would have been the more difficult game. And I think with the red card that he got, it's kind of 50-50 for both, I think. And I think both are lined up well. They both have the advantage. And you need to have it in a game, and both these games are so close. And I sound like we normally sound like when we talk about the draw, right? What it is that both teams have to continue playing their game. I think Milan has to be stout. They're going to be boosted by Mike Maignan there. They may take more chances now, and maybe their attack will look better, to be determined. But I think what they're going to do is play similar to what we saw, and I think they're going to have to weather the storm early. And I say both teams have the same chance of qualifying. They're equally as hard, both locations, both games, I should say. And I think, both progress by the skin of their teeth. It's not going to be easy by any stretch. Based on the recent form, but I like all 3 Serie A teams to move on. I mean, I can't pick a winner between the 2 teams, Milan or Inter having the easier way. What do you think?
I'm with you, and I think that, like you said, Milan benefit from having Maignan back. Not only that, but Tomori will be available for the second leg, as will Ismail Benacer. So they're going to be deeper in terms of what they can pick from. They can cope with Harry Kane. With the combination of defenders that they're going to have available. They can either draw on the experience of Kjaer leading a back 3, or they can do what they did on Saturday and just go with the complete athleticism and range of a Tomori, Kalulu, Chow back 3. So they've got options. I think that if Emerson Royale starts on that right-hand side, I think that he's capable of exposing some spaces. We'd say the same thing about Teo Hernandez, too. So I think that there's a place that you can counter, and you're leaving Christian Romero all by himself to commit fouls. And also I think the other thing with Tottenham is that Dyer's suspended. So that's part of your defense that you're going to be without, which. Now do you move Longley into the middle, and then you're going to have a Romero, Longley, Davies combination, which doesn't scare you. So, And the Porto side, as I said, I think that the combativeness overall of Otavio is missed. I think some of the other elements of his game is replaceable with what's available to Porto. But I'm with you. I think that they both go through. I think that they both draw away.
Yeah. I agree.
I'll go 1-1 for both games, in fact.
I like it.
I think that, and I think in both cases they'll each score first.
So here's
because they're both going to counter. They're both going to be playing on the counter. Inter loves to play on the counter. Porto have to come and chase it. Inter can sit back. You could even see Brozovic playing from the start in that game, diffuse things, and you get spaces that Lautaro loves to attack, and it works there. And then on the Milan side, you counter through Leao, you counter through, and you have Giroud as a reference point up top to get the ball to his feet and then play off of him. So I go 1-1 for both of those games, and I see both Inter and Milan going through with Napoli. 3 Serie A teams in the last 8.
Let me ask you this: do you think Tottenham or Porto come out differently than they did in the first leg? I think that Porto of the two teams, Porto will. I think Porto at home are going to go for the aggressiveness. Obviously, you're down, but you want to feed off the home energy early on too. And I think they're going to go for the goal early on, because if they get a goal early on, it could spark a second goal quickly. Just by the nature of playing at Porto, that stadium is daunting. So I think they're going to be more aggressive than we saw in that first leg. And to your point, will allow Inter to sit back and play on the counter attack, which will suit them fine. Tottenham, I think, came out fairly, aggressively. I think, for the most offensive minded in the first leg, and I think they'll continue to do that in the second leg. They don't want to expose themselves, obviously. Have Milan come on the counter attack. So of the two, I think Porto will probably be their tactics will be slightly different, more aggressive. What do you think?
I think their shape will definitely be different. I mean, at the weekend against Rio Ave, they played a 4-3-1-2. They didn't play this double pivot. Of Grujic and Uribe. Grujic just protected the back four, and he was flanked by Pepe Aquino and Andre Franco. And then they had Eustáquio in front of him with Mehdi Taremi and Tony Martinez up front. And I think in their 2-1 win at Sporting, let me look at that one real quick. At Sporting, they went with the Grujic-Uribe double pivot with Vonderson and Andre Franco on the wings. So some of it has to do with who they play against and how they're situated. That was an away match for Porto on top of it. Grujic and Uribe look to be the preferred setup for Conceição, but I could see him putting in that 4-3-1-2 like he did against Rio Ave just to try to create something in hopes that he can maybe get the early lead and even get an advantage, and then someone like an Uribe comes in later in the game. So I can see it. But Antonio Conte plays one way, and I don't see him deviating from that.
Exactly. But yeah, I agree. All three Italian teams move on, I believe.
Yep. Exhaustive coverage of Champions League. Let's dive into these Europa and Conference League second legs, Richard. Juve going to Nantes. These are the Europa League games. 1-1 there. And remember, there's no away goals rule anymore, so it's neatly balanced, as they would say. Roma losing at Salzburg 1-0, losing late in that game. Cluj and Lazio. Lazio taking a 1-0 lead to Romania, will be without Patrick, who was sent off last week. And then Fiorentina 4-0 at Braga. I believe Braga had a player sent off in this game. They did, and he'll be suspended. And I'm not going to go diving into who that is because I don't think it's going to matter. So Fiorentina's through. Yeah. I don't think we have to go into detail about that. I mean, there's no way they blow that.
I think they shut all of us up. I mean, everyone, because nobody would have saw 4-0 from Fiorentina.
No.
Maybe 4-0 for Braga, but no one saw this coming. And kudos to Fiorentina. They came out, and Vincenzo Italiano and his men, they hit a nail on the put a nail on the coffin for Braga, and that tie is over. It's done. They can focus on Serie A for time being.
Yep. And this is, Fiorentina's path to Europe again next year with the way they're struggling in league. Unless they go on some run here at the end of the season. As if they can win the Conference League, they'll be in the Europa League. So they're certainly taking this seriously. Lazio, I expect that to be a difficult game in Romania against Cluj. I do expect Lazio to go there and win, though. I'm going to say something like 2-1. I think that Cluj will score first and make this really exciting. But then Lazio will come away with some goals, whether it's mainly through Immobile. I'll go with Roma to turn it around against Salzburg. I think Salzburg was pretty poor away in the Champions League in their group. I think they'll give Roma some scares, but Mourinho's men ought to be able to overcome that. I'll go with 3-0 there, 3-1 to Roma. They're going to have to overturn it and go through. And then Juve and Nantes is the one I can't figure out. I mean, I want to say that Juve are going to win, and they'll win something like 2-0, which is what they should have won in the home leg if they had their heads screwed on right.
Yeah.
but they got countered. They got caught asleep at the wheel on the goal they conceded. They looked like they really didn't offer much going forward. They didn't play with the same kind of spirit that they did when building up to the goal that they scored. And they still need to play like they need this if they're going to get into the Champions League next year. So I'll go with them winning 2-0 in France, just because I can't get around any other result when I look at these two teams on paper. What do you think about these other three games?
Yeah, because I agree with you. 14, that's closed. I'll go reverse order. So Juve, not. I agree. That game was surprising that Allegri would let his team be that spatial, I guess is the word. I don't know. They lost concentration and at the wrong time, and get suckered with a counter goal like that in the 60th minute. Not a good look. And now you have a daunting task going to Nantes and trying to get an away result. Can it be done? Yes, absolutely can. Nantes are no PSG or Lille or Marseille by any stretch. They could just have to be taken seriously, but I think it's gonna be close. I want to say something like 2-1, maybe 1-0 for Juve. It's a 1-goal victory, I think, that Juve wins. But it's not going to be easy by any stretch. I think they're going to have a better performance than they did at home. At home, that was a very disappointing result, the way they played in that game. We saw a lot of Nantes fans at the game as well, chanting Serie B to Juventus. So hopefully the players get motivated for that, and could get a plan to go there and set an example. And get a win. But I see a 1-goal victory on the road for Juve. They should have the result there. Salzburg, I agree with you. I think on the road they've not looked as impressive as they had at home. We knew playing at Salzburg was going to be difficult. It's a hard place to play. But Roma, I like what they've been doing lately. I like that Mourinho, he's obviously very experienced in the situation. And they obviously won Europa League recently. So they should be ready to play. They're going to go at home and get the job done. I'm probably looking at 2-0, I would say, this game and get the victory there. So I see Roma moving through. Lazio and Cluj, I think this is the one that gives me the heartburn. And I hear you. Would you say 2-0 for Lazio?
2-1 to Lazio.
2-1 for Lazio.
Yeah.
I'm not, and I'm hoping this is a jinx because it worked for Fiorentina. They won 4-0. I'm not convinced yet of Lazio in Europe. I've seen some glimpses here and there, but I respect this Cluj team probably too much. And I think that they're very good at home. They produce shots. They produce chances. They are very decent defensively. I'm going to go 2-1 Cluj. And then it's going to have to go to stoppage time or something, I guess. But I see ultimately Cluj getting by Lazio, I think. I don't have a good feeling for Lazio in this one. And I hope I'm dead wrong. But I'm respecting this Cluj team, I think, maybe too much. But yeah, I've seen what they've done in small glimpses, and I like what I've seen from them. So,
yep. So those are our thoughts. Just quick run through on all of those games since we've kind of beaten the hell out of Europe, at least with from the Champions League side of things. So, let's move on to what happened over match week 23, Richard.
Yeah, there were some games, I guess, in Serie A that we got to talk about.
Yeah, we should probably talk about Serie A, shouldn't we?
Serie A, Sitdown, I guess, right? So we start off the first game. Let me get the right week first. That would help. Started off with Sassuolo hosting Napoli. We were hoping this game would be an entertaining back and forth game, and it kind of was, honestly. I think both teams, including especially Sassuolo, had their fair share of chances in this game. What we did see is early scoring, and that's all really Napoli would need. Kvaratskhelia got a goal assisted by Oliveira. It was really a solo goal, if you will, for Kvaratskhelia, kind of just weaseling, going right through the heart of the midfield for Sassuolo, and then getting a goal from distance. One goal of the week candidate, obviously, and then another goal of the week candidate. Rahmani finding a great pass to Osimhen, 2-0 within the first half hour of the game. Went to halftime at a score. Before the goal, I will say this, though. Loriente nearly had goal of the week when in the 42nd, 43rd minute, where he made a great move on, I think it was Di Lorenzo, cuts in, gets a goal, but it goes to VAR, and it was judged that he was offsides, I believe it was. The call, correct call, by the way. So it's only 2-0 going into halftime. Like I said, Sassuolo had their fair chances in this game. They go into the second half. You saw both teams kind of really exchanging opportunities here and there. There was a goal that Napoli thought they got a third goal late in the game by Simeone. Also, that went to VAR. That was also canceled out. So ultimately, it was a 2-0 game. But for a game lately, when Napoli plays, it's pretty much a one-sided game. And I thought this game was very two-sided. But 2-0 is the scoreline of that one. Moving on, Sampdoria Bologna. This game was an entertaining game as well. So, Musa Barrow scores his goal in the 26 minute, like that. 1-0 there. They come back and score a goal. They go to review, I believe it was, and they said, yes, it was a good goal. This question about offsides, I believe it was, if I was correct, but it was deemed it was onside. It was a good call there. So they get the early lead there. Go to halftime by that score. Come out of the half. Sabiri gets a penalty, legit penalty, scores the goal. Great. It's 1-1. We're game on. Minutes later, I mean, it's like, what, 3 minutes later, another penalty, maybe a soft penalty, I would say, but it's a penalty nonetheless. Sabiri steps up again. Save. No goal. Went for the same shot. Goalkeeper read it the second time. Didn't go in there. 1-1. And then, of course, Orsolini, goal of the week candidate. Great goal coming down the right-hand side. Roofs it on the goalkeeper and gets the goal. 2-1 Bologna win that game. Certainly entertaining game there at Sampdoria. Moving on to the Berlusconi derby. Monza hosting Milan. Tatarusanu was forced to save 2 big saves in the first minute of the game. Really could have been game changers for Milan. Milan have a tendency to sleep early in the games, and they did in this one. But Tatarusanu came up with the big saves in the game early on, I should say. And then for Milan, Junior Messias again comes up big in moments where you think he's should be wasted away, and he pulls something like this, and he made a great defensive play, goes down the pitch and gets a nice goal. A hammer of a shot, honestly, in the 31st minute, makes it 1-0. We saw chances both ways. This was a tight game. Monza are everything that they've looked in the last 9-10 games. Very strong defensively, can put up chances on the attack as well. Made it difficult for Milan. It was by no stretch easy. Milan had their chances as well. Milan get the victory in this one, 1-0. And defensively, again, another shutout for Milan. Inter hosting Udinese. I thought this game could have been a bogey game for Inter, but it was not. Penalty awarded early in the game. Dumfries gets a penalty. It went to review. It confirmed it. Lukaku steps up. Saved by Di Silvestri, but there was an encroachment in the play. Goes to VAR. Do it again. Lukaku does not miss twice. Scored a goal to make it 1-0 there in the 20th minute. We would see that goal canceled out by a wonderful goal of the week candidate by Sandy Lovric in the 43rd minute, 1-1 at halftime. This is what I was expecting. But then, it was Inter kind of taking over, make a tie-in with a great goal of the week candidate. Great team goal there. Make it 2-1, and then Lautaro end the game here late with a third goal. 3-1 Inter win. Nice win by them. Shock of the weekend, I would say. Atalanta hosting Lecce. And the upstarts get 2 early goals. First in the 4th minute. Cisse, goal of the week candidate from distance. Excuse me. A wonderful goal from distance. Went 1-0 at halftime. They would get a second goal by Blin, his first goal in Serie A in the 74th minute. 2-0. Højlund would get a goal in the 87th minute. And then I think in stoppage time, Falcone, game-saving save on Muriel from point, good distance away. It was inside the box, but it was a great shot. It was going in goal, and Falcone bailed him out. 2-1 Lecce with a shock victory there. Moving on, Fiorentina and Empoli, they draw 1-1 in their game. Goal by Cabral late to cancel out an early goal by Cambiaghi. A nice play between him and Caputo for that goal. 1-1 there. Moving on, Salernitana and Lecce. I'm not going to even say it. It's a small derby for the owner there, but 2-0. Lazio. Yeah. 2 goals. Immobile penalty, one from the penalty spot, and then a second goal from nice play from Maricic. Wonderful play. 2-0 against Salernitana. It was a close game though. Spezia, Juventus. Juve winning 2-0. Goals from Moise Kean as well as Angel Di Maria. Wonderful goal by Di Maria for the second goal there. And then rounding it out, the last 2 games, Hellas and Roma. Roma, nice win at home. They look strong in their game. Goal by Ola Sabakin. First goal for him for welcome to Roma. Welcome to Serie A. Nice goal by him. Goal of the week candidate there. That's all they would need. They would win 1-0, get back in the top 4, top 3, honestly. And then Torino Cremonese, that game was surprisingly good, 2-2. We saw some good goals in this one. Valeri, I think, was a banger of a goal that really took the cake of the 4 goals in this game, but 2-2. So where do you want to get with this game? These games?
We had 9 saves for Falcone for Lecce against Atalanta, so it wasn't like Atalanta wasn't trying to win a game or
They were good. Not good
struggling.
enough.
Atalanta actually played really well, and on a different day, they score a bunch here. I mean, Toloi had a nice chance. You had Sapi had one from point blank that Falcone. Is that the one you're referring to? That was the
Yeah.
In the 70th minute, there was that one, and I think there was one there from Muriel toward the end at the top of the box.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Yep,
Muriel one.
Yeah, that okay. Yeah, so both of those. I mean, he had some pretty point blank saves here.
Yeah.
So yeah, credit to Falcone, who was outstanding. And maybe that speaks to Atalanta for the talent that they have, for no European distractions that they have. Are they really complete enough to crack the top 4 because they drop points in games like this that just make you scratch your head? That they just don't have they don't find the way to see it off. Is that edge that Atalanta have had for the last few years under Gasperini, has that just diminished? So I think it's worth it. I think it's worth asking those questions.
Yeah.
Torino blew a great chance to pull ahead of Juve for 7th. I watched a good bit of this game, in fact, and have to say that I came away pretty impressed with Cremonese under Ballardini. Sajid's goal was I think it just kind of bounced kindly to him. It was a nice finish. But Benassi was giving them some trouble, through the midfield. Valeri and San Nicola are very good wingbacks. That if Cremonese do go down, these are 2 guys that need to find work somewhere else next season. But then I thought that good performance on the Torino side. Miranchuk was good, pulling the strings. I think he's been turned into the playmaker that Torino hoped they would have with him. Ilic made his first start, at Torino after coming over from Hellas Verona. I think he's made a couple sub appearances there. Drew the penalty that Sanabria would score. So that was noteworthy to say. Torino were certainly motivated. I think Juric was motivated to win this game because it would have put them ahead of Juventus, ahead of the Derby della Mole, which is actually on Tuesday. So that's one to look at. Udinese had a chance to make a statement here against one of the better teams in the league to show their wares, and didn't get it done. They're on 30 points now. But you're starting to see Salernitana falling apart here a little bit. They've lost 4 of their last 5. I think maybe even 5 of their last 6. That doesn't bode well, and that's certainly going to give some encouragement to the likes of a Hellas Verona. Spezia's not only are they not winning, they're not scoring. They scored 2 against Empoli, but they can't seem to score anywhere else. So you're looking at that, and you're looking at Verona, and they lost 1-0 to Roma, and we're singing Ngonji's praises the previous week, and I still think he's going to be a really good player in this league. Jose Mourinho knew how to defend him, so he didn't have the impact that he had in previous games. And then after that, I mean, how about Lecce? I mean, I think they deserve some praise here.
Yeah.
I mean, back-to-back weeks, drawing Roma and beating Atalanta, as they try to further cement themselves here for a place in Serie A next season. Very exciting times for them. Beat the teams that you can. How do you survive? You beat the teams you're supposed to beat. or beat the teams that are around you. They're going to be struggling, and then you got to find ways, anyways, to get points on the top half teams. So
yeah,
they win this one away. They've mainly been a problem at home, Anthony. But there you have it. And then Milan, finally, because we haven't said anything. We've hardly said anything about Milan. Here we are, an hour and 6 minutes into the podcast. Just another impressive defensive display. The shift in the tactics. And is the attack struggling? Yes. This is something that's, again, it's a progression. You're changing your system, you're changing your tactics, you're changing your approach. You start by keeping people out, which they're doing. You work your way forward and make the improvements going forward. And I think that Milan will find that scoring touch again under this system. And it'll be interesting with
CDK's still unlucky too.
He is. He's going to be a fantastic player in this league. Okay? I mean, just like we said last week, most young players just need the time to adapt and need just that one thing that gets them going. And sometimes it takes an entire full season to find it. So I'm not worried about CDK in the least. So, but yeah, that'd be my long-winded roundup of what I saw over the weekend.
Yeah.
What'd you see?
Obviously, Atalanta Lecce was the main game that really got my attention because you're right. I mean, Atalanta, we keep saying, hey, are they a contender for the top 4? And then they have games like these where it says, no, they're not quite ready yet. They have some pieces and they look good at times, right? Højlund and Lookman look fantastic, but they get blips and lack of concentration. And this is what happens. And, great for Lecce. Lecce deserved this win for sure. Play. You said it. They play really well at home usually, and on the road is where they can be had. They look like they very much want to stay in the league in this one. They played very, very well. They took their chances. They didn't have many chances. They had 4 shots in the game, and they got 2 goals. And so they're opportunistic, and that's what you need to be. As you mentioned, beat the teams around you and scalp the heads that no one else can get that around you. And so now many people are going to say they can. None of the teams in the bottom 4 or 5 teams are going to say they beat Atalanta outside of Lecce, really. So
right.
Impressive performance by Lecce defensively. Finding a way to get it done. And then, you talk about Milan. I'm going to flip over to Monza's side. That Monza still continues to be impressive. They did lose in this game, but Berlusconi and Galliani know what they're doing. And, the little engine that could is, I think they have the right recipe to stay in this league and potentially in the future, if, depending on how finances are, could be a player. But what we've seen is that the manager has his team playing well, both defensively and offensively, and giving everyone chaos at the moment. This 10 to 15 game stretch, they're playing really well. So if this continues, I mean, next year we could be talking more seriously about Monza, but them and Lecce, I think, are mid-table teams, kind of what Anthony was saying, that are going to give everyone a headache, everyone from top to bottom. And we're seeing that here with Milan. And yeah, it's a big game with Berlusconi thing, but Monza have been doing this for the last 2 months. So it's nothing too surprising to what we saw from them.
Yeah, I mean, what were they on, an 8-match unbeaten run before that loss on Saturday? So you can just add that to the list of, teams in pretty decent form that Milan have been able to beat or been able to keep from scoring in the run of play over the last 4 games. So, goals and plays of the week. I mean, I'm just going to say the Kvaratskhelia goal for me was the goal of the week.
Okay.
Just taking it from midfield, running at the Sassuolo defense, having the composure, nutmegging the defender and finishing it. I just, that set the standard. And while there were some pretty good goals, Valeri's goal, I'm trying to remember the other one. The name just escapes me. But I think that Kvaradona set a standard on Friday. So,
okay.
And I don't think anybody else quite got there, at least in my opinion.
My top 5, I have Valeri's banger. I thought that was a really great goal by him. Unexpected for sure. I think Falcone's game-winning save on Muriel late in the game to seal the victory for Lecce on the road was number 4. Number 3, I'm going to go with Inter's team goal, Mkhitaryan finishing it off. I thought it was a lovely play between Çalhanoğlu, Di Marco, and Mkhitaryan. Really great team goal there, I thought. I'm going to give shout out to Bologna and Orsolini. His winner, yes, it was a bad angle, but he powerful shot and got it to the top. And though sticking on powerful shots, though Osimhen didn't make my top 5, he has a very underrated, super hard shot. It doesn't matter the angle, and it looks like it's going slow, but it's so fast and so hard. Goalies have trouble with it in Champions League and in Serie A. So that's a shout out to Osimhen. But number one for me is not a goal. It's not Kvara. I'm going to go Skorupski. I'm going to go Skorupski with a double save. He had a penalty save and then the rebound point blank. Great play by him. And as part of the reason why Bologna won their game. So shout out to Skorupski for that.
For sure. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. Those are our thoughts on the best actions of match week 23. And let's finish it off, Richard. It's time for the world's most popular hashtag game. It's time for Who Won Calcio Twitter. Take it away.
All right, just getting my stuff in order here, and then here we go. Starting off with the first contender here comes from Big Vesuvius. Who else? @ Nerazzurri, and it's the Inter board. Let me start this from the beginning. It's the Inter board trying to figure out how to make signings this summer.
How much do we have left? $40. That's it?
How much do we have left? $40? That's it? Huh.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Perisnich returns. Lautaro, if his job wasn't being the owner of AC Milan.
Working the gas station. Yep. It's a true story. Milan is saving his job. No. Moving on. Next one comes from the Odds Bible, and it's Pep sending Brahim Diaz to Real Madrid to then join AC Milan on loan and get revenge on Tottenham. Is 4D chess by Pep.
Perisnich has done it again. He did the Valentine's cards last year. He has added again this year. So let's not waste any time and go through the thread. The first one is Lautaro. I can make you happier than my World Cup performance. Let's see. Moving down is now Nicola Barella. I only wave my hands to complain that you don't get enough love from me. Onana, you make me forget what my name is. What is that? Romelu Lukaku, I could never imagine leaving you. Now down to Joaquin Correa. There aren't any ingredients I could use to make something as sweet as you. And then is this Skriniar? Yeah, my love for you is renewed every day.
Nice.
Chalanolu, 2 doner kebabs, a large fries on the side, 2 Sprites, and a lovely day with you, please.
Oh, my gosh.
Dumfries. I can't cross, so I can never be cross with you.
Oh.
And then who do we have here? Is that Aslani?
Yes, Aslani.
Aslani, yeah. I could sit on the bench all day with you. And then finally, Simone Inzaghi, I would never substitute you. Those are the Inter Valentines courtesy of Perisnich.
And he did not stop there. He did some Serie A ones as well. So he had Buffon, I'll never quit on you. All right. Tomori, I'll love you the same day as I'll love you Tomori. I love you like Allegri loves a 1-0 win. And then lastly, loving you is as easy as spelling my name. From Kvara. Oh, nicely done.
Very nice.
Very nice. I guess I'll take this next one. So the original tweet came from Art Vandelay, Tony Malas, and he says, Juve's home record in knockouts in the last 5 years has been an embarrassment. Used to be a fortress. And so, of course, Art Morelli chimes in and says, this is the fortress 2023 in shambles.
Kind of ruined. Yep. All right. Let's see here. Bob sent another nomination here. This is from Juventus Edits _ Chiesa 2021 versus Chiesa 2023.
-15.
-15. Yep.
Oh, that's great. That hurts. All right. Moving on. The big show with another one. It's send Lukaku back to England yesterday and sign this guy.
Manolo Tubarão, pode ter igual, mas melhor nunca.
He can score.
We're on the theme of Sunday League. Okay, at FCIM Thomas, Dusan Vlahovic, skills, goals, highlights.
Oh my god. All right. Moving on. So this one is I was unable to view this, so I don't know what it is. So maybe you'll see it and you can let me know what it is.
I cannot see it, so
all right.
we can't.
Oh well.
It was probably brilliant.
It probably was. So I'll go with Killpin with the next one. First view. Wow, that's incredible. Second view. The bottom part looks like when you win on solitaire and the cards start cascading. Third view. Hang on. Is that a dart shirt? Yeah, it's a mix of. This is when you see Napoli doing all these crazy things. You're like, hey, hold my beer.
Yep. Was that it? I think that was it.
That was it. All right.
Parasnitch wins. How do you deny the annual Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I agree. There were some funny ones, but I mean, Parasnitch was his classic. You have to really come out banging if you're going to beat Parasnitch with his Valentine's one. So, and shout out to Parasnitch because I totally missed this one. And then when we commented on the last one, he's like, "Wait, what about my Valentine's Day?" I was like, "Oh." Then I saw it and I was like, "All right, yeah, that's it. That's the one." So, well done.
All right.
Oh,
well,
right.
I think we knocked it out of the park. I think we come back here again next Wednesday night.
Yeah, there's more Champions League going on, I guess, right? Or
no, not next week, but
we can do Wednesday. That's fine with me.
Yep, it's my son's birthday on Tuesday.
Good reason to go Wednesday.
Yep. So we will eventually get back to doing Tuesdays. Everybody, we're just Life interrupts this. So
that's right.
We don't have a boss that's telling us we have to do every Tuesday night. We set our own schedule, and you're just going to have to wait. That's why there is the notification bell here on the YouTube channel, so that you are up to date and are notified when we do go live on the air. So, okay, so we will put a bow on this edition of Serie A Sit Down. Richard, anything else to plug?
No, not really anything to plug, but like Anthony Skanga says, like the video, people. It does help us.
Yeah,
it helps
please.
Content creators and subscribe. That also goes a long way as well. So, but yes. No, nothing really to plug other than obviously SerieASitdown.com. And then you can follow me if you like at R_KHARMAN.
You can find me at FTC_21. Serie A Sit Down. We have our own channel on Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. You can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Wherever there is podcasts, there is Serie A Sit Down. At Serie A Sit Down on Twitter. Follow us there. Follow us on Instagram at Serie A Sit Down as well. Follow us on Facebook as well, too. If you get tired of pictures of your friends' kids, then you can check out our Facebook page where there isn't pictures of our kids. So, and then you can take a break from that. But anyway, so we will be back with you guys next Wednesday night around this time. We've got Milan Atalanta on Sunday. That'll be a nice talking point. We have the Turin Derby on Tuesday night. So some interesting games as we have a week break from what do we call it? From the European stuff. We might get the draw, I think, after. No, we won't get the draw. We'll know the Europa, the Europa and the Conference League rounds.
Yeah.
We'll know that, but we won't know the Champions League, the second leg, I should like. So, Mercy, chat, thank you so much.
Grazie.
You guys all came through big time for us. We appreciate that. If you're watching this for the first time, please, as we said, subscribe, drop a like, and hit that notification bell so that you know when we are on the air or when we do a video drop. So that is going to do it. We will see you all next Wednesday night. For Richard, I am Frank. As always, tell your paisans about us. Ciao.